Welcome to this edition of Back in History. In Back in History, we keep you abreast with the events that occurred in the historical past. In this edition, we discuss the profile of Louis Edet, who served in the police force in Nigeria for several years and rose through the ranks to become the first Indigenous Inspector General of Police of the country. The headquarters of the Nigerian police, located at the heart of Abuja, is known as Louis Edet House. This edifice is named after the first Indigenous Inspector General of Police. Louis was born in 1914. At the time of his birth, Nigeria was under colonial dominance by the British. Incidentally, it was during his birth in 1914 that the colonial administrators embarked on the amalgamation of the Southern and Northern Protectorate of Nigeria for administrative and economic convenience. His father was Edet Sien Orok, while his mother was Geraldine Orok. The way from present-day Cross River State. The young Louis grew up under the watchful eyes of his parents, and when he became of age, he was enrolled in primary and secondary schools for his formal education. He attended the famous Sacred Heart School, Calabar, and later attended Bonny Grammar School in River State. He went through his studies successfully and is said to have been very strong in physical education and other aspects of learning. Louis developed interest in the police force and was one of the first indigenous persons to be enrolled into the force at the time. He entered the police force as a clerk in 1931. At that time, the police force was headed by officers recruited for Nigeria from the United Kingdom. Louis was trained, commissioned, and then posted to several police formations across the country. He played a number of police roles for many years, including serving as police orderly to the Governor General of Nigeria at the time. In August 1945, he was promoted to the rank of sub-inspector. In 1947, he was sent to the United Kingdom for training at the Bramshill Police College, where he performed creditably to the admiration of his formators. He was adjudged as being remarkably brave and disciplined. On completion of his studies, he returned to Nigeria and was promoted to the rank of Assistant Superintendent of Police, ASP, in 1949. Between 1953, 1957, and 1960, Louis Edet attended more courses in England, and at the completion of each course, he returned to Nigeria to continue with his police work. He continued to receive promotion in the police force in the course of his service to the nation. He received another promotion in 1960, this time to the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. He was next promoted to the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Police. In December 1960, the United Nations needed the services of Nigerian policemen in the Congo to assist in bringing an end to the restiveness that was prevalent in the country at the time. Louis Edet was selected to go to Congo. He thus became the commander of the first contingent of the Nigerian police force under the United Nations in Congo. He completed his assignment in Congo and returned to Nigeria to continue with his service to his country. In 1961, he was promoted to the rank of Commissioner of Police and was posted to serve in the present-day Federal Capital Territory. He performed creditably and was rewarded with another promotion, this time to the rank of Deputy Inspector General of Police. As at 30th March 1964, the Inspector General of Police in Nigeria was an expatriate by name J.E. Hodge. This was 4 years after the grant of independence to Nigeria. It thus looked odd that 4 years after independence, a critical arm of Nigeria was still manned by an expatriate. There was the craving for an indigenous but well-trained and well-qualified officer to assume office as Inspector General of Police. This is where the lot fell on Louis Edet. On 1st April 1964, he was appointed as Inspector General of Police, and by this singular action, Louis Edet broke the jinx as the first indigenous Inspector General of the Nigerian Police Force. He served in this position till the outbreak of the first military coup in Nigeria, which claimed many lives in January 1966. The onerous task of fishing out the coup plotters and their conspirators fell squarely on the table of Louis Edet as Inspector General of Police. Louis did his best and professionally too, and a number of persons were arrested. However, in just a matter of time, Louis was asked to vacate the office of IGP, and Kam Salem was immediately appointed as his successor. At this time, Louis Edet still had a few years of service remaining for him as a police officer before retirement. The government then posted him to the Nigerian High Commission in the United Kingdom as police attaché. He remained here till retirement in 1968. Upon his retirement, he was appointed as Commissioner for Home Affairs and Information in the then southeastern state, which was his state of birth. He spent the better part of his time attending to humanitarian needs of persons afflicted by the Biafra-Nigeria Civil War. It has been recorded that as a police officer, Louis Edet was known for his professionalism, discipline, and integrity. He was committed to police reforms, himself having studied abroad to see firsthand the application of professionalism in policing. He was also known as a police officer who was interested in Nigeria having a modern police force. Louis had the respect of his colleagues in the police and the respect of others in the sister security agencies in the country. During his years of service in the police force, he received several awards and commendations for services to Nigeria and for his services abroad. He was decorated with the award of Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger and the National Order of Merit. The Queen of England also decorated him with the award of Commander of the Order of the British Empire. Louis Edet lived till 1979 when he passed on to the great beyond. One of the daughters to Mr. Louis Edet is Dr. Henrietta Williams, wife of Chief Ladi Williams, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and son of the legendary legal luminary F.R.A. Williams, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, now of blessed memory. In an interview granted to Punch newspaper in its January 13, 2018 edition, Dr. Henrietta Williams stated as follows about her father. When asked the question, "What do you remember about your father's time as Inspector General of Police?" she responded as follows, quote, "I was privileged to be in contact with the colonial administration. At the time, you couldn't live in Ikoyi if you aren't white. My family was one of the first black people to live in Ikoyi. There was apartheid in Nigeria at the time. I witnessed apartheid in Nigeria. I remember walking into Ikoyi Club Lagos with my family, and we were told that we wouldn't be served because we weren't white. My family had those challenges to overcome. I remember all those bits of trying times for Nigeria when Nigeria, had to move from a white colonial environment to a Nigerian-only environment. I still remember that my father was on leave when he got a call on the assassination of some generals. It was during the 1966 coup that I'm referring to. I also remember that there was a change in administration. My father was then asked to resign. From that time, appointments were no longer on merit. It became a political affair. Camp Salem was asked to take over as Inspector General of Police. End of quote. Asked how her father reacted when he was told to resign, Dr. Henrietta responded as follows, quote, "He simply adhered to the instruction. He didn't argue. But I remember that his countenance changed anytime he came home. It wasn't a happy look. It was an extremely traumatic period. But because he was a gentleman, his values were different." She continued, still on quote, "He was given a post in the Nigerian embassy in the United Kingdom. I was about 15 years old then. We all went to the United Kingdom. He was given a section in the Nigerian embassy to oversee. It was a pleasant and peaceful job. After the Civil War, he returned to Nigeria and was made Commissioner for Home Affairs. He was asked to resettle all the Biafran refugees in the southeast. By then, I was in the university and did not return to Nigeria with him." End of quote. She was also asked the question, who were the people who visited your home when you were young? To this question, she responded, unquote, "I saw some of his boys who later became IG after him, such as the late Etimiyan. White men regularly visited us too. I also remember the Queen of England's visits. My mother had to make sandwiches. Sadly, I didn't get to see the Queen. I was busy making sandwiches with my mother. All the police officers on duty had to be fed. We made sandwiches till late in the night." End of quote. She was then asked, how do you feel that your father was the country's first Indigenous Inspector General of Police? To this question, she responded, unquote, "I am very proud of him, but I know he deserved it because of his nature. He was extremely courageous, meticulous, disciplined, and well-trained. He was trained in policing at the highest level. His appointment was on merit. I am also proud of the fact that he was a good Christian." End of quote. Louis Edet came, saw, did his utmost best in his service to Nigeria and Africa, and his name shall remain in the history books for many more years to come. Thanks for watching this edition of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to the channel or follow the page for regular notification on every new video.